Good evening. Thank you for accommodating my last minute schedule change here. We are learning Daf Maseches Nedarim Daf Ayin Ches. We're starting 5 lines down the word Ne'emar Kan. Yesterday we learned a drasha from the pasuk of Zeh Hadavar, speaking about the pasuk that reads Vayomer Vaydaber Moshe El Roshei Hamatos Livnei Yisrael Lemor Zeh Hadavar Asher Tzivah Hashem, that introduces the section on Nedarim. And we gave a drasha yesterday about Zeh Hadavar. Here we're going to see a divergent approach with how to utilize the pasuk of Zeh Hadavar. And on Ayin Ches Amud Aleph, 5 lines down, it says Ne'emar Kan Zeh Hadavar. It says by us, the pasuk that I just quoted, it says the word Zeh Hadavar. The Ne'emar Lahalan Zeh Hadavar, and elsewhere in the Torah it uses the phrase Zeh Hadavar b'shchutei chutz, and the Gemara makes a comparison between the two. Ma b'shchutei chutz, the halacha is by doing shchita outside of the appropriate place. The isser of doing that shchita applies to Aaron Uvana v'chol Yisrael. That applies to anyone. Even shchita, which is kosher bizarre, even a regular shchita that might otherwise be mutter by azar, but location. You can't just do it wherever you want. That's called shchutei chutz. That's not allowed. It's usher for everyone. Says the Gemara, af parshas Nedarim, even when it comes to the parsha of Nedarim, Aaron Uvana v'chol Yisrael. Cryptic. What does that mean? Of course, Nedarim apply to everybody. So we have to understand this. And the Gemara then adds another layer. Umakan Roshei Hamatos. Normally, when you have a Gzeira Shava between two psukim, there's one thing going over the bridge. Well, the one thing that went over the bridge was Aaron Uvana v'chol Yisrael, that it applies both to Shchutei Chutz and to Nedarim. Here we have another thing going over the bridge. Umakan Roshei Hamatos. Just like by Nedarim, it says that it's Roshei Hamatos. It has to be the elite. It has to be a Chashav Talmud Chacham. Af Lahalan Roshei Hamatos. So too over there by Shchutei Chutz. But again, this is hard to understand. So let's see the Gemara's explanation of this Gzeira Shava. Third of the way down, but Parshas Nedarim l'may hilcha. So what was the halacha that was learned by Parshas Nedarim? So says the Gemara, Omar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov lahachshir shalosh hadyotos. What we learned from the language in Nedarim about Roshei Hamatos was to be machshir gimel hadyotos, to say that okay, maybe one hedyot is not enough, but gimel hadyotos is sufficient. Says the Gemara, that can't be. Why are you saying hadyotos are mutter? After all, the Roshei Hamatos ksiv. The pasuk says Roshei Hamatos. A hedyot is not Roshei Hamatos. So the Gemara says you're right. Amar Rav Chizda v'Temer Rav Yochanan v'Yachid Mumche. You're right. What the pasuk is coming to teach us is that a person can be a Yachid Mumche in regards to Nedarim, to be matir, and that's considered acceptable. What about Roshei Hamatos b'shchutei chutz l'may hilchasa? When it says Roshei Hamatos by shchutei chutz, what is that coming to teach us? We know that it's part of the Gzeira Shava, and we already learned what one side of the Gzeira Shava has, that by Nedarim, that Roshei Hamatos comes to teach us that Yachid Mumche is allowed to be matir and neder. But what about by shchutei chutz? So the Gemara says halfway down on Ayin Ches Amud Aleph, Amar Rav Sheshes, Amar Rav Sheshes, Lomar sheyesh she'ela behektish. Wow, I didn't know that. That's a chiddush. If you are makdish something to the Beis HaMikdash, consecrated, the halacha is that there are backseas. You can say, did I actually say that money was going to go to the Beis HaMikdash? You go to the Chacham, you can be sure. That's what the chiddush of Roshei Hamatos by the world of Shchutei Chutz is that even if you're makdish something, you're allowed to take back your neder. Well, that's all well and good according to those who hold that way. But Beis Shammai, Damar Ein She'ela Behektish, according to Beis Shammai, who says that when it comes to Hektish, there are no backseas. So then we're left with our initial question, Roshei Hamatos Tichsi b'shchutei chutz l'may hilchasa. What then was the usage of the phrase Roshei Hamatos? You told me there's a Gzeira Shava from one to the next. But if you hold like Beis Shammai, that there are no backseas when it comes to Hektish, then what does the Roshei Hamatos come to teach us? The Gemara says, I'm going to pull the carpet out from under everything. Beis Shammai les luhu gzeira shava. Bichlal, the gzeira shava of Zeh Hadavar Akan and Zeh Hadavar Lahalan over there, he rejects the whole thing altogether. Says the Gemara, wait 1 second. If Abaye rejects the gzeira shava altogether, then according to Abaye, we have 2 phrases of Zeh Hadavar that have no drasha. So the Gemara says, Zeh Hadavar beParshas Nedarim l'may ksiv. According to Abaye, who says that there is no gzeira shava, so why does it say Zeh Hadavar beParshas Nedarim? And the Gemara says over here, like we saw yesterday, Lomar Chacham matir ve'ein bal matir, that only a Chacham is able to be matir a neder, and bal mefer ve'ein Chacham mefer. Everybody's got to stay in their own lane. The Chacham can be matir. The Baal can be mefer, and you cannot crisscross those wires. Everybody has to stay in their own lane. Okay, very good. And what about the zeh hadavar by shchutei chutz? Says the Gemara l'maiksiv. What, according to Abaye, would be the need of that drush? If he's not holding of the gzera shav of zeh hadavar, what does he do with the words of zeh hadavar by shchutei chutz? Says the Gemara chiddush. Lomar al hashchita chayiv. If you do shchita as a shchitas chutz and it's in the wrong place, the halacha is that you're chayiv. You've done something tremendously wrong. Ma she'ein kein ve'ein chayiv ala malika. But if a Kohen takes his nail and holds the bird in just the right way, a complex process, and he does malika and kills the bird with his nail, that's not part of the isser of shchutei chutz. The only isser of shchutei chutz is when there's shchita proper with a knife. That's what zeh hadavar means. Zeh hadavar, only this is going to trigger the isser of shchutei chutz, namely shchita. Ma she'ein kein malika, where a Kohen will do this procedure to kill the bird, that is not enough to trigger the isser of shchutei chutz. That's a big nafkamina. Says the Gemara, fine, all is well and good. 2/3 of the way down, 5 lines before the wide lines on Ayin Ches Amud Aleph. According to Beis Shammai, we don't actually see a Mari Makom in the previous set of Mari Makomos that we just saw in the Psukim, where Beis Shammai would agree to Gimel Hadyotos. According to the Gzera Shava, that was be'etzem the point of the Gzera Shava, is that Gimel Hadyotos works and Yachid Mumche works. But according to Beis Shammai, who's not Gores the Gzera Shava, where does he learn Gimel Hadyotos from? So the Gemara responds with a very lengthy answer. Nafka lahu, he learns it from Midirav Asi Bar Nasa. Dichsiv. What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "Vaydaber Moshe es moadei Hashem el bnei Yisrael v'tanya." It shouldn't be the hatanya; it should be v'tanya. And there's a brisa that speaks about this pasuk. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer moadei ne'emru v'lo ne'emra Shabbos b'reishi siman. The pasuk only says that the Jews were taught about the moadim, but it wasn't talking about Shabbos Breishis. Shabbos Breishis is a reference to Shabbos itself, regular Shabbos, which is Zecher L'Maaseh Breishis. So when we keep Shabbos every week, that is a constant standing reminder that we are not in charge, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. It's a weekly reminder. We cease and desist the whole time to remember that this is not us, that we're not the ones in charge. So that's a little bit hard to understand. The pasuk says Moadei, but doesn't say Shabbos. And Benazai Omer Moadei Ne'amru, V'lo Ne'amar Parshas Nedarim Imahin. Again, what does that have to do with anything? What does Nedarim have to do with anything? Okay, the pasuk says Moadim, but it doesn't say anything about Nedarim. So Rabasi Bar Nasan Kasha Le Hamas Nisa. He looked at this brisa. He's like, I have no idea what is going on in this brisa. So Asal Narda, he went to Narda, the Kamid Rav Sheshes, and he went to go ask a shaila to the Gadol Ador. He went to go find Rav Sheshes. V'lo Ashkeche, Rav Sheshes was not to be found. Asa Abasrei L'Mechoz, he saw him walking out of town. Got his license plate on the back of the car, bumper sticker, I'm Rav Sheshes. He follows him. Where is he going? To Mechoza. So he travels with him to Mechoza. And Ravasi wants to ask the following shaila. Amar le, Moadei Hashem nemru v'lo nemra Shabbos Breishi Siman. We have a brisa. The brisa says, in the name of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, that the pasuk says Moadei Hashem, but it doesn't talk about Shabbos Breishis, but that's not true. Because if you look at the ensuing psukim, v'haksiv Shabbos Siman, Shabbos is spoken about in those psukim. So what are you trying to teach? Visu, and furthermore, in the second part of that brisa, Ben Azai, Visu, Moadei Hashem nemru v'lo nemra Parshas Nedarim Imahin, Ben Azai wanted to say that the psukim by Moadei Hashem don't speak about Nedarim. It's not true. Right next to it, it's written. Misitra literally means from the side, and it means that in the psukim that follow, if you take a look at the mefarish, the bottom mefarish, bitzad osa parsha de pinchas ksi parshas Nedarim. Right there, the psukim are very close to each other. They're not juxtaposed immediately, but they're very close. So what was Ben Azai teaching? The brisa is very, very difficult to understand. Last few words on the page. Amar le Hachik Tani Rav Sheshes responds to Ravasi and says, this is pshat. Turning to the top of Ayin Ches Amud Beis, we're going to go to the second to last line on the page, and then we will call it a day. Moadei Hashem, when it comes to the holidays that we Jewish people keep, tzrichin kiddush bezdin. For that, says the Gemara, we need kiddush bezdin. We determine when Rosh Chodesh Nisan is, and therefore when Pesach is, and therefore when Shavuot is, and therefore. We determine when Rosh Chodesh is. That's on us. That's Kiddush HaChodesh. Ma she'ein kein Shabbos Breishis ein tzricha Kiddush bezdin. We never need to figure out when Shabbos is. We know exactly when Shabbos is. It's every 7 days. We've never lost track in thousands of years. We've had some problems with the Jewish calendar over the years, for sure. We've never lost track of Shabbos. So that's the first shot in the brisa. The brisa on the bottom of the previous page, and then Rabbi Yossi says that Moadei Hashem is different than Shabbos. You're right. Moadim are different than Shabbos. We generate Moadim, and Shabbos is not generated by the Kiddush HaChodesh. What about the Ben Azai line, second line on Ayin Chesamid base? Moadei Hashem tzrichin mumche ve'ein, take out the word parshas, ve'ein nedarim tzrichin mumche, and add the word ella afilu bezin hedyotos. Remember, we were trying to prove. We're trying to find a marimakum for Beis Shammai that Gimel Hedyotos works. We just found it. That it's all within Ben Azai in this brisa. What did the brisa say? That by Moadei Hashem, there we need mumchen. But by Nedarim, we don't need mumchen. All we need is Hedyotos. Says the Gemara, wait 1 second. How can you say that? Parshas Nedarim, Rosh Amatos ksiv. This is now another person talking about the same thing we learned earlier. So the question can be asked again in earnest because it's a different person talking. He says, wait a minute, how can you say that Hedyotos are the ones who are allowed to be Matir and Neder? Hare, the pasuk says, Rosh Amatos. So the Gemara responds like it did before. We're adding in a Chiddush, that a Yachid Mumche can also be Matir and Neder. Good. The Gemara now teaches a very, very unique din, one that goes in the face of much of what we've learned over the last many weeks. Amar Reb Chanina, Hashosek almanas leminkat, not lemikat, but leminkat. A man who hears a neder from his wife, and he is silent simply to perturb his wife. Okay, so maybe some couples therapy, but let's say that that's what he does, and he's trying specifically to annoy her. Mayfair afilu mikan v'ad yud yamim. He has up to 10 days. Seems like a strange out. The Gemara says that makes no sense because we have a marimakum that we've already learned multiple times that you only have 1 day to be mefer and neder. What is that marimakum? Halfway down, Ayin Chesamid Beis, Masiv Rava, Emasai Amru, Meis Habal Nisrokna Rishus Le'av. When do we say in the case of the Na'ara Me'urasa, which is the name of our perek, when do we say that the responsibilities of hafara transfer from a baal to a father? That's bisman shelo shama habal, if the baal never heard, o sheshama v'shasak, or if he was quiet, o sheshama v'hefer, or if he heard and then he said something, umeis bo bayom. Under all of those circumstances, then when the baal dies, nisrokna rishus la'av, then the father can come in. Aval shama v'kayam, if the baal sustained the neder, or sheshama v'shasak, or he heard and was quiet, umeis biyom shel acharav, and he died the next day, and yachal hafer, no one can do afara, she's trapped with her neder. My love, isn't this talking about a case of b'shosek almanas leminkat? And you said she has 10 days. Harayat, there's only 1 day available at a maximum but when he was maced the next day, the brisa said nothing doing. So what is this whole little thing of like he's trying to annoy her? Says the Gemara, no, that brisa was talking about something else. That was b'shosek almanas lekayim. That was he was being quiet, but it was silence of I agree with you, not silence of I disagree with you. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, Hainu Oshama V'Kayim. Well, that can't be the case because that's an explicit case that's listed in the Brisa. Ella, says the Gemara, you're right. What this Brisa is talking about is B'Shosek Stam. He heard the neder, he didn't say boo, and he didn't have any intention. He just was sitting, he was processing, he was just thinking. However, what that leaves room for is the din that we started this sugya with in the middle of the page, which is that hashosek almanas leminkat mefer afilu mikan de'ad yud yamim intaka. It seems to stand in the Gemara that because the brisa was speaking about a case of stam, and here it's not stam, here it's leminkat, so therefore there's room to say that the rule of 10 days doesn't apply. No? No. The case of hashosek almanas leminkat, that's the result. The result is that the brisa is talking about a case of stam, but our case is not shaykh to that. The brisa is talking about a case of stam. Our case was talking the minkat, therefore he has a wider window of doing hafara. We'll stop right here. We'll pick up Mir Hashem tomorrow with a full blot and a half. Friday morning. Oh shoot! Friday morning's a blot and a half too. No, I'm here Shabbos.
Sunday morning.
Baruch Hashem. Shabbos blot and a half. Thank you for knowing my schedule better than I do. Sunday morning after the 7:45 shacharis, and then from Monday through Sunday, Sunday I'm not 100% sure about, I have to look at my flights, but Monday through Sunday, we're going to be recording and I'll be posting shiur in the morning. Wishing you all a beautiful day. See you Mir Hashem tomorrow night.